They're a good team, good receivers, an efficient running game, and they can set you up on play action as well. And so we just got to see how they attack us, go for there.
Significant players in all three phases, and they'll work to win the weighty moments. They'll fight for every blade of grass. We'll work this week and ready ourselves for a big-time matchup this weekend here in Pittsburgh.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the matchup show presented by Unibet, getting ready for the Steelers home opener when the New England Patriots come to town. They are sitting at 0-1. The Steelers, of course, 1-0. Let's talk about this week 2 matchup and let's introduce our panelists today. We have Dave Dameshek, kind enough to join us from the Extra Points Network. Also Matt Williamson from Steelers Radio Network and also Steelers.com. And Arthur Moats, Hall of Famer. Got to keep plugging him because I feel like it's giving us good juju. Sticking with the good juju in terms of outside linebackers, guys. We know that TJ Watt tweeted yesterday that he would be back. The good news is he was apparently given good news according to what the reports are saying. Coach Tomlin said on Tuesday he was in a better place, he thought, than they were after the game. The Steelers did officially place TJ on IR today. That means he has to miss at least 4 weeks. That would be the Patriots, the Browns, the Jets, the Bills. Potentially could come back whenever they face the Bucks, the Dolphins, the Eagles, and then there is that bye week. So Dave, I will start with you. Can this defense remain dominant without TJ Watt?
Well, first of all, I don't want to embarrass you right out of the gate, Missi, but Juju, who you referenced there, he's on the Chiefs, so he's neither here nor there. And Moats, we talk about TJ Watt. Don't you feel bad about yourself spooking all the yinzers out there talking about like, oh, Peck, can't come back in a month or 6 weeks?
Don't you put that evil on me. Don't you put that on me.
I heard it with my own 2 ears, Moats. Listen, this team is, for all the upset that it caused Jamar Chase. You saw what his 2 middle fingers had to say about the Steelers defense, and Joe Burrow throwing 27 interceptions in the first half, and the league at large. I don't think it loves, in the quarterback league, seeing a team knuckleball its way to victory after victory. That's how these Steelers are built to do. Now all of a sudden you're taking away their best defensive player. I do think that they have a real chance of surviving at least these next 3-4 games here. Thanks to future Hall of Famer Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and let's start with there. It's not like the cupboard is bare because number 90 is out, but it's a major hit. Let's not jive ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. And once again, I did not say that TJ can't return because of the torn pec. We're just simply saying give him time. You know, time is his friend when you're talking about recovering from a torn pec. But in the sense of can they be dominant, I don't think they'll be dominant because you're losing the reigning defensive player of the year, the guy that just tied Michael Strahan's sack record, right? 22 and a half. But I still think they can be really good because when you look at what Cam Hayward has brought to the table, the emergence of what Alex Highsmith did last week, those 3 sacks and the way that he was winning one-on-ones. It wasn't him working with somebody else. It wasn't him being blitzed and him being a free rusher. That is growth. That is something that you can hang your hat on and ultimately say that, you know what, we can believe in him winning his one-on-ones consistently. We can bank on him being that guy that's going to force pressure. And when you're talking about a Larry Ogunjobi balancing the other side of this D-line out, well, now you're not going to have quarterbacks feeling like, well, hey, I just got to escape this side of the pocket and I'll be fine. Because Larry is a very formidable pass rusher in his own right. So I think that they can still remain really good, but dominant, that's going to be a tough ask when you're not having TJ Watt out there.
In terms of Alex Highsmith, who you just mentioned, I had a chance to do a sit down with him this week, Moats, and we talked a little bit about his offseason, so let's take a listen to that.
Yeah, I think just rewatching my film last year, I knew there's a lot of areas that I could improve on, and one of the areas, of course, that I wanted to improve on was just getting to the quarterback, and I know just a big goal for me was just hit those double-digit sack marker, and I feel like I just put in a lot of work, just refining my moves over the past year, whether that be my chop, dip, rip, cross chop, my spin. I just really trying to refine a bunch of those moves that I already have in my arsenal and just continue to work on my get off and stuff like that. And so I'm just going to continue to work on it just through the season as the season goes on.
Matt, there's probably a few candidates we could go with of who needs to step up the most on the defense. Is Alex one of them? And in your opinion, who's the guy?
Well, he sort of stepped up last week with 3 sacks. I mean, I don't think that's going to maintain. I don't think he's going to end up with 51 sacks or whatever that adds up to. But I do expect Highsmith, and we saw it last week, to take a step forward in his career. I mean, his get off is superb. He's obviously learning. He came in the league a little bit raw. Yeah, his body looks better year after year as well. I think he's entering the prime of his career. And he's got a really interesting matchup this week against Trent Brown, who might be the biggest player in the whole league. I mean, he is a massive human being, but not exactly the most nimble fella. So, I mean, I think that Highsmith can win with speed, get off, counter moves, get big Trent leaning one way and come across his face. So I'm expecting him to do well this week.
Matt, you speaking like you seen something out there before, man. I like that right there. I can definitely agree, though, man. Trent is a mountain of a man, but yes, he struggles with speed. He struggles with having to bend. And we've been seeing that in terms of Alex Highsmith's strengths. That's been one of the things that he's been hanging his hat on. But the other thing that we did not talk about with Alex is his relentless effort. This dude plays so hard every single snap. That's another reason why he's able to win at times, and why even if his initial rush or his counter might get blocked, the effort that he continues to fight and play with ultimately helps him to make some of those plays as well. So that was something that I definitely thought was worth mentioning.
Does it offset? I'm sorry, Missy, I'm
Go
just
for
curious if you guys anticipate them blitzing more than they like to do. You know, if 90's in there, there's not much of a need, but is that how you offset the loss of your number one pass rusher?
The next 2 weeks, I think, yes, because the Browns and the Patriots are built much differently than the Bengals in terms of personnel usage, the scariness of their wide receivers, the quarterbacks you're facing. So, yeah, I think their blitz percentage goes up dramatically these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Moats, in terms of Brian Flores, we don't know exactly what he does, but Mitch Trubisky gave us a little insight of how he sits in offensive meetings. But sticking with the defense, though, how have you seen his blueprint on this defense?
Well, when you just talk about this overall physical nature, how well they're tackling on the back end as well, those are things that when you talk about being a well-coached unit, that is a Brian Flores staple. You look at his time with the Miami Dolphins, they didn't always have the most talented players out there, but the things that you could look at their defense and say were staples, they were going to tackle well. You know they were going to get their hands on footballs in terms of creating turnovers, and they just had this identity where they were going to be a physical unit. And when I look at this Steelers group in terms of how they played week one, what did we see? We saw turnovers, we saw them flying around, and we saw them playing with a physical demeanor. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I know we're going to talk about the interception, the blocked field goal, and the 14 tackles, but you could see the mindset that he had, the mentality that he had, whether he was tackling Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, you name them. He had a certain level of intensity that was a part of his game. And to me, that does come back to when we're talking about a Brian Flores, because that is a part of what he brings from an identity standpoint.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but first let's take a look at our Week 2 opening lines across the league, presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app or visit pa.unibet.com. Coming up, Mitch Trubisky talking about a killer mindset for the Steelers offense. Is that possible this week, and what do they need to do to get the run game going? We'll tackle that and much more when we return on the Matchup Show presented by Unibet.
We just got to hit those. We hit those in practice. We hit a couple in the preseason. The one early to Boykin, if we hit that one, I think it opens up a lot of different stuff for us, and maybe it's a different story on third down or a different feel of how we feel about offense. So we're just going to continue to take those shots, continue to work the timing in practice, and we would like to come up with those big plays.
Welcome back, everybody. That was quarterback Mitch Trubisky. He also talked about an aggressive mindset. That is something we talked about the Steelers defense and the mentality that Minkah Fitzpatrick started and set for that unit with the pick 6. Dave, what do you need to see from the Steelers offense? They took care of the ball in Cincinnati, but week 2, what's that next step?
Well, I am the great defender of the Steelers playing defense first ball, but I do think at some point, and that point is right now, they have to get the ball in the hands of these playmakers that they have. And I'm not talking about Najee Harris. He is obviously the banger between the tackles. I'm talking about George Pickens. It's disappointing, all the hype around him. I often encourage people, don't get seduced by what you're looking at in August. It has no relationship with real football games. But George Pickens, you can see, is the real deal. He's a difference maker. The strength of this Patriots defense is up front. I don't know that Trubisky, any more than he had last week, is going to be able to stand back there and wait to take a bunch of deep shots. I think you want to get the ball into the hands of those three primary wide receivers there and let them make some hay against this Patriot. With that secondary, generally, Belichick knows how to coach them up, but let's see him do it in week 2 against these high-end talents that Pittsburgh's got going for him. Also, by the way, real quick, is my head way bigger than Arthur Moats? Who knew? Look at that.
Back away from the computer screen, Dave.
Like that. Okay. All right, there we go.
Moats, schematically, what does the offense need to do to have that quote-unquote killer mindset that Mitch was talking about?
Yeah, Dave hit on it, though. You got to take more shots. You have to essentially make this Patriots defense be good on the back end. I mean, right now, everything that we say is more speculation. It's more so what we've seen from them in the past or from Belichick in the past. But week 1, we really didn't see that secondary unit have to stand up and really be tested on numerous occasions. And I think when you're looking at the matchups, whether you're talking about Chase Claypool, whether you're talking George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, it's not a lot of DBs on that Patriots roster where we're saying, hey, we don't think we match up well. So for me, I think that we should take some of those shots. And how do you generate those? Well, you might have to bring in that extra tight end. It might be a situation where you're lining up in a 12 personnel grouping, which means Pat Frymouth and Zach Gentry are on the field. And maybe only Pat is running the route, but you have that Gentry guy there, so that way he can help with the protection, whether it's for Dan Moore or Chooks, because Matthew Judon is their best player defensively. He is their best pass rusher. But at the same time, he's not winning in the manner of a TJ Watt. So a chip or just having that extra guy lined over there will give you that time for these receivers to win their one-on-ones on the perimeter. And I think that's ultimately how you open up this offense and make them way more explosive than what we saw last week.
Matt, in terms of the run game, give us a renewed recipe to get that going. We saw a lot of the jet sweeps. Chase Claypool had the longest run. We know Najee Harris dealing with a foot injury, but he said he's going to be good to go for Sunday.
Yeah, I'll get that in 1 minute. And Dave mentioned, the underuse of Pickens last week. I think something to really key here is Najee as a receiver as well. If you look at the Patriots, they're very, very good against opposing tight ends. Their safeties are very good cover guys. Kyle Duggar's an up-and-coming player, but they have a lot of production in the receiving game against running backs. And I want to see Najee spread out. We've seen this in practice, run fades, run wide receiver routes like he's Lev Bell, because he's very capable. As for the run game, I don't have as elaborate of an explanation. I think they need to move bodies. I just don't think that they're getting a push nearly consistent enough, and I really think it's that simple. And the bells and whistles and the end of rounds and 6 carries to Claypool, that's beautiful, but I don't see a foundation to the house.
So it sounds like you're saying we got to put on the hardcore heavy metal music, button up the chin straps, bite down on the mouthpiece, and go ahead and get after it.
Move some people backwards, yep.
Craig Wolfley would be loving this right now. That's all I'm saying. He would be loving this, all right? But I'm with you, man. Yeah, sometimes it's less about the schematics, it's less about what we're talking about, and more so just that mentality, just that attitude of, you're going to win this grass. I need 1 to 2 yards in front every single time. And sometimes it's as simple as that. But yeah, I wish it was a little bit more of a prettier, elaborate, way to describe that as well.
And you also, George Pickens, his role should be, I think about the Chiefs and the way they've approached offense during the Mahomes years. It's not like they're grinding you out on the ground. They replace a run game by swing passes to Tyreek Hill and mixing in the fact that he and Hardman and otherwise will burn you deep if you aren't careful. I suppose Trubisky is ultimately right. And by the way, I think he just missed Boykin there, and Boykin got a little tangled up there early in the game. If he does catch that, it probably does track a little bit differently. Maybe they need to get Pickens or otherwise loose early. but I think that they could play a little of that KC ball, which is to say, get the ball at the line of scrimmage on those receiver screens or those swing passes, and let them try to make hay against what presents as a mediocre cornerback group from New England coming down.
And they're all last name Jones for some reason.
The Joneses.
Keep up with the Joneses.
All right, it is time now for our Yins Chat predictive question of the day. You can download the Steelers mobile app, play Yins Chat, and update questions daily. This one you guys can all answer. Mitch Trubisky, passing completions over under 20.5. Dave, you're up first.
I'm going over because of what I just said. I think they are going to seek to, I do think that some of the game script at least is owed to the very conservative approach that the Steelers took. It was owed to that they jumped ahead 7-0 quickly. Barring that from happening, I think that they will try to take advantage of the matchups they have with the Steelers wide receivers. So I think that short or otherwise, he'll get up over 21 completions.
Moats?
Man, I hate the fact that y'all put it at 20.5. I was like,
Good
yo,
number.
I
if
didn't
it was
pick it.
at
I didn't pick it.
19, it's perfect. 20, but 20.5. Like, oh. I'm going to say over as well because I do think that they're going to need to do more offensively. I'm not as confident that the running game is going to be able to have the success that we want because New England defensively, they are geared to stop the run. They play the run really well, but I think for Mitch and this offense to be as successful as they need to be this week, they're going to have to throw it a lot more, and Mitch is just going to have to be better. And I think that he will because some of the stuff in week 1 was timing. Some of the stuff in week 1 was just getting the rust of playing 4 quarters, or in our case, 5 quarters of football, whereas in the preseason, it was only 1 to 2 quarters. So I think a lot of that is ultimately going to help Mitch get over those 20.5 completions.
Matt?
Yeah, it's a good number. Yeah, and I'm kind of with Dave that a short controlled passing game, screens to receivers, a lot of Najee through the air could get him over, up to that 21 or higher number. But I'm going under in any offensive bets for this thing. I just think it's going to be a low scoring game, and don't start your fantasy players in this one.
All right, our next over under 2.5 takeaways for the Steelers defense. Dave, what do you say?
Well, I think the cardinal rule for Belichick is to take care of the ball with Mac Jones, and so I'm going to go under there. I know that Minka had a game for the ages, and by the way, Moach, you touched on it, but really, we do need, with all the cynicism about, get Trubisky out of there and put Pickett in, and what are we going to do without Watt? We really do need to take a beat and celebrate. Minka Fitzpatrick blocked an extra point with the game on the line. How many times in your life will we ever see that happen? That was great.
Special teams matter. Special teams matter.
Danny Smith approves of that message, Mo. What are you doing in terms of the over-under for 2.5 takeaways for the Steelers defense?
Now, as much as I would love to ride this, we're going to continue this crazy turnover train. And obviously, we saw New England have turnovers in their own regard last week. When you go back to thinking about Belichick coach teams, that is one of his staples. They take care of the ball, and defensively, they hunt the ball. So as much as I would love to say that we're going to have 3+ turnovers, I don't think that's the case. I do think we will get 1, but to get over 2.5 against Belichick and for him to have multiple turnovers on multiple weeks, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah,
Matt?
I'm with these guys. These 2 Hall of Fame coaches, I'm sure, are driving it into their players' brains that do not lose this game, which is different than winning the football game. We are not going to give the football away. A punt is okay. Live to fight another day. And Mac Jones is a smart young guy. I don't see him putting the ball in harm's way like Burrow did.
All right, last over-under for you guys. 5 times that the CBS crew mentions Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger. I can't even say it without laughing.
I'm taking the over. It's not, you're not even asking me. Oh. I'm saying it now. Give me the over. Hammer it, man.
Matt and Dave?
Oh, I'm definitely over, and I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in here, too. I mean, I don't know if people realize this, but this is the first time that these teams have met without Ben or Brady since 1998 when Bill Cowher and Pete Carroll were the head coaches. I mean, it's just amazing.
Quarterbacks, Drew Bledsoe and Cordell Stewart.
How about it?
Feels like a lifetime ago.
Kind of was, wasn't it?
Kenny Pickett wasn't even born yet.
Right, you could have a kid. Right, you could have a kid through college based on that age. first of all, key stat for Steelers supporters to look for here is Mac Jones. This is his 19th start, has never won a game in which the opponent has scored more than 14 points. So let's go, Trubisky. We get a second touchdown, go for 2, get the 15, game over, apparently, on that one. Yes, this one's going over because this will combine one Tom Brady. There'll be the wonder if Belichick misses his old friend Brady, those mentions, and 2, Roethlisberger is going to get mentioned with ties to America's team and otherwise. We're going to hear some of that. Do you think that could happen? Would Mike McCarthy make that call? That will certainly come up at least once during the game.
All right, let's take a look at the matchup between these two teams. Yes, it is just week 2, but here's where things stand in terms of league rankings. And as you guys were saying, in terms of Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin, they are the NFL's longest tenured coaches, with one team currently going at it. So there might not be Brady and Ben, but we still have Tomlin and Belichick. Guys, it's the home opener, a lot of excitement. I think Steelers fans are going to be ready for this one at Acrisure Stadium.
I am. I'll be watching from Los Angeles, jealous of everybody who is in Acrisure Stadium, waving their towels and otherwise. And as somebody who laughs at every other person who thinks where they sit on their couch and what they hold is laughable, that you think you impact the game, when in fact it's me who does these things. I picked the Bengals last week. So as somebody who isn't superstitious about anything except my own deeds, I have to take the Patriots in this one. So congratulations in advance.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here today on the Matchup Show, and thanks to everybody for watching. We will be back here next week.